Here is our next lesson on finding the sample space, or basically all the different outcomes that could happen. So, to vocabulary to get us started, we have compound event, that is two or more simple events happening together. So think of flipping a coin and rolling a die. So two things are happening. The sample space is a set of all possible outcomes for an event or events. So it could either be for one or for all of them. But basically we want to know what are all the possibilities that could come up. So to do that, we're going to use something called a tree diagram. Basically it's going to branch out and show us all of the possible outcomes to a compound event. So suppose we're going to toss a quarter, a nickel, and a dime, and we wanted to see what was going to happen. So we want to list out all the possibilities. So we start with our first decision, quarter. The quarter, I could get heads or I could get tails. Then I go to the nickel. I could get a heads or a tails. So I could get heads for the quarter and then heads for the nickel, or I get heads for the quarter and then tails for the nickel. If I got tails for the quarter, I could then get heads on the nickel, or I could get tails on the nickel. So we're kind of branching out as we go. After the nickel, then we could flip the dime. So if I got heads, and then I could get heads again, or I could get tails. I could flip heads and then tails, and then I could get heads again, or I could flip tails. So basically branching out and showing all the possibilities at each step along the way until we're come up with something called our sample space. Basically all the possibilities. So basically think of it as following the line. I could go heads, heads, heads. I could go heads, heads, tails. So it's basically an organized list of all of our possibilities. I could go heads, tails, heads. Or I could go heads, tails, tails. We're just following each of those branches along. Then I could go tails, heads, heads. We're just organizing that list. Then I could go tails, heads, tails. Then I could go tails, tails, heads, or I could do tails, tails, and tails. So the sample space is all of the different possibilities. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different possibilities that could occur. So we want to know what's the probability of getting 3 tails. Well, we know there's 8 possibilities total. So look through your list. How many times did we get all 3 tails? Well, there's only 1 out of the 8 where we got all tails. Next one says, what's the probability of getting 2 heads and a tail? Doesn't matter what order. Well, again, it's out of 8. So sort through the list. No 2 heads. So here's 2 heads and a tail. Here's 2 heads and a tail. Not there. 2 heads and a tail. Not that one. Not that one, not that one. So there are 3 possibilities that I could get 2 heads and a tail. But in order to see all those possibilities, I had to list all of that out. So let's try another one. Basically just think of what are each of the decisions you have to make along the way. So this one says a car can be purchased in blue, silver, red, or black. It can also come as a convertible or hardtop. So first we need to choose the color, and then we're going to choose the top. So for color, we could do blue, silver, red, or black. And it's always good to give yourself a little space. For the top, we can choose convertible or hardtop. So I can choose convertible or hardtop. And I can do that for each of my colors. So we're going to show each of those branches along the way. Yes, it's kind of a pain in the butt to have to spell it all out, but it really does help you see all the possibilities, because then you have to create your sample space. Well, I could do blue convertible. I could do blue with a hard top. Hard top. I could do silver convertible or silver hardtop. I could do red convertible, or I could do red hardtop. And then I could do black convertible, and I could do black hardtop. So I'm just listing out all the different possibilities. Sorry, my handwriting's kind of bad. For each of my decisions. So basically you're looking at the ends of the lines. That's how many decisions or how many options you have. This just spells out each of them. So we have a total of 8 possibilities for this one yet again. This time I'm going to spread it out going up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are my numbers, so I could pick one of those numbers. Then I could pick my color. So for each one of them, we're going to branch off to red, white, or blue. Red, white, or blue. And you can do it horizontally. I just don't have enough room on the screen to be able to do this many branches. Red, white, and blue. Then red, white, and blue. So first I did number, then I did color, and now I'm going to do coin. I'm going to toss the coin and see what my options are. Well, I can get a heads or a tails. Heads and tails. Heads or tails. So you have the same options at each one, but it's just branching off to show us the different possibilities of how we could get there. What are the different possibilities that could happen from these 3 choices, or these 3 events that could take place? First we chose a coin, then we chose a color, maybe it's on a spinner, and then we flipped a coin. And you can see it makes a pretty lengthy list. But now you have to make your sample space. So I could get a 1 with a red and a heads, or a 1 with a red and a tail. I could get a 1 with a white and a heads, a 1 with a white and a tails, a 1 with a blue and a heads, a 1 with a blue and a tails. Okay? Then I can do the same thing. So you finish the sample space and come show it to me. That's how I know that you're finished with the video, and I will give you your next activity. So yes, it can be kind of a pain to list them all out, but in some of these problems we're going to need to know all the different combinations so we can start to sort through it and find some certain information. So it's good practice for seeing what we need.